Welcome to Life Coaching on the Move podcast. I'm Fiske, your host, life coach, trainer, speaker, storyteller. I'd like to add that because I do tell stories, real stories, I don't make them up. Welcome along to this upbeat, inspirational, encouraging, cheering podcast to help you through life events, difficulties, struggles, and just to give you practical tips, practical techniques to cope with whatever you're coping with at the moment. At the time of recording this, we are coping with the coronavirus, but you may well be listening to this months and months down the line when it is something in our past. Don't think, though, that these episodes are not relevant to you. They are, because they're just coping strategies for life. They are life coaching tips, techniques, hacks on all sorts of subjects. Today's subject is seeing the good in what sometimes can look to be a challenge or an obstacle or negative. It's tips and techniques on how we can search for the good in the mess, really. And come out the other side. So it doesn't matter when you listen to this, it's still relevant. It's only ever positive. I do not try and scare you or drag you down with facts and stats and things like that. This is uplifting and encouraging. If you're new to this podcast, then you won't know that I don't script write, I don't edit, I just chat, I just talk from the heart. Sometimes I'm stood doing the ironing when I record. Sometimes I'm out in the woods with my dog. When I record, it just comes from the heart. So much so that today's episode, I actually lose my thread and forget what I was saying in the middle of a story. So there's a bit of a tiny gap where I stop it and then start again. Stick with me. It all comes good in the end. So that just goes to show how authentic this podcast is. The other thing to say is my website is www.milestone-coaching.co.uk, where you can click on a free blog. You can look at free workshop dates, although there aren't any dates in the diary currently if you're listening to this in March, because we're not allowed to do workshops. But normally I run free workshops on stress and also free workshops on confidence. However, there are online programs for sale on the website. There's a long 7-module stress management program that you can purchase and download, and that is then yours to do over 7 to 10 weeks. Lots and lots of stress management techniques for you, or for a team member if you're a line manager purchasing it for somebody in your company. They can do it at their own pace in the privacy of their own home or the meeting room at work or whatever, because it's then theirs once it's downloaded. There's also a shorter one on time management online program. So they're there and still available if you want. If you would like one-to-one coaching, and there's probably never been a time at the moment in this virus issue that we're all facing where coaching could be any more relevant to discuss so many different subjects. It could be to overcome anxieties and stresses and fears. It could be to get fit and healthy and cope. It's coping strategies. You might want to have coaching on life generally and how to adjust to this change. You may want coaching on time management and working from home, on your business if you're concerned about the economy in your business, on your career if you're concerned about your career and changes that may have happened there, on your confidence and self-belief. There are so many topics actually. If you're a young person, I do a lot of young people coaching, young persons coaching on stress and anxiety and things like that, because their futures have been really sort of ripped from beneath them, really, in a sense, if they were studying for their A-levels and university places and GCSEs and things like that. So there are lots of topics for lots of people that I can work with. Don't think that money is a massive barrier to coaching. A lot of people send me emails saying, yes, but how much do you charge? I've been listening to your podcast for the last few months, but I'm not sure I can afford it. I keep one-to-one coaching to a very reasonable price for private individuals. It's very different if it's corporate rate, but for private individuals I don't want money to be the issue, and so I keep my costs down to about the equivalent of a hairdo. That's how I've always seen it, actually. Not necessarily for your man, they're slightly cheaper, I admit that, but for a female we would easily spend that sort of money on having our hair done. So this is different because it's much more impactful, especially at the moment when the hairdressers are closed. So and the nail bars and all of those sorts of things that we may have previously invested in and can't at the moment, it may well be worth investing instead in your mindset, your self-belief, all of that. A, to get you through this time, but B, to get you ready so that when you get back out there and we're all back to normal, you will be a complete different approach to work, different approach to life, different approach to your whole well-being and your self-confidence and self-belief. So that's there if you want it. But you need to go on the website, is probably your best way of contacting me, www.milestone-coaching.co.uk, and click on the contact me box where you can, also the telephone numbers are listed there in the email address. So let's crack on with this week's episode, all about seeing the good in this mess. I hope it's helpful. If it is, please share it on your social media so that other people who may well be isolated, alone, and want some uplifting and some tips and techniques, and just to feel that they're hearing another human voice, please post it, because it could be so helpful for somebody at the moment. Appreciate that. Let's crack on to this week's episode. Today, excuse me, today I thought we would focus on staying positive. Whether you are listening to this in real time and we are facing the social isolation, it may actually, by the time this goes out, it may well be that we're in total lockdown. I suspect that's about to be announced perhaps tonight by the Prime Minister. If you're listening to this when it's way behind us and we've come out the other side, this is still really key practical tips. So I wanted to ask, how are you doing? How are you genuinely doing in life at the moment? How are you feeling? How are you coping in life? How are you feeling? Because I think it's really important that we do connect to what we're feeling, because it's okay to feel whatever we're feeling. We're allowed to feel that. And it's important to connect with it and recognize it and see it. It's a bit like observing the weather. You know, what is the weather outside? Looking through the curtains and, oh, it's frosty today, or it's raining out there, or it's a gorgeous morning. It's observe your feelings and notice what they are. Acknowledge them. And then decide if they're helpful, decide if you want them, decide if you need to do something about them. What are your feelings telling you? A bit like the weather. The weather tells us what we should put on for our clothes that day. It guides us, really. Do we need a coat? Do we need an umbrella? Do we need short sleeves and sandals? So in a sense, I think our emotions are the indicator of what's going on in a deeper level. Now, I have, as you know, I always stay positive and upbeat. It is just my default position, but we're all human and we've all got good days and bad days. And I am focusing on all of the good here, but underneath it all, I must be still frightened and still anxious because I'm not sleeping. In fact, I know most of us aren't sleeping at the moment in real time going through this virus. And I don't feel down during the day. I am, I think, watching too much social media and too much news, and I have consciously decided, as I suspect many of you have already, and if you haven't, maybe you might soon, I've got to limit myself with the amount of news that I listen to. At the moment, I have decided I will listen to the live 5 p.m. Prime Minister updates to keep abreast of all the changes and the new decisions that they're bringing in, and the guidances. But what I have had started to do is no longer watch the 10 o'clock news at night, because I realised that was stressing me out. So I had already started to do that the last few days, but what I have found that I'm doing instead is sifting through a little bit of social media. In my mind, it's to look for upbeat, positive things, but unfortunately it's mostly scary stuff. There's some real great jokes and laughter and videos and things out there which I am loving, because they're cheering me up and making me really laugh. There's some really good stuff out there, and I'm sharing that with everybody as much as I can, because I think it's so important. We're not laughing at the virus, we're not laughing at people who are very, very sick or worse. We are just trying to see a bright side in all of this and cheer each other up and keep in touch. And actually it has been lovely, because we're all forwarding them to all of our friends, or I am anyway, and then they're responding, and then we're just communicating, we're just checking in, are you okay, is everything all right? So this is a really good side of social media, I think. But the negative side and the negativity on Twitter and things like that are not helping me. I recognise they're not helping me, and I wonder what they might be doing for you. So last night, another terrible night's sleep, where I just couldn't get to sleep till about 1 in the morning, and I was awake again at 5 in the morning, and had woken several times in between. So although you are probably similar, you're probably doing your best to keep your head up, you're probably doing your best to keep your spirits up, and I think many of us are doing our best to protect the children from all of the doom and gloom and the worries and the angsts, but it's getting to us. So what I know is really important for me and my well-being is to look at the good side. So as I've said, the funny things going around on the internet are fantastic, really cheering me up, but there are other things, aren't there? And just this morning I drove to a wood where I know it's incredibly isolated. I don't think many people know about the wood around here. It's not one that I ever see anybody else in. Took the dog there for a bit of a run out and some exercise. Beautiful morning. I went very early so that I wouldn't, because I'm up early, so that I wouldn't see other people, because we're all trying to socially distance ourselves. Had a lovely time with her, a walk run. No pressure, no distance that I was trying to achieve or anything like that. Just wanted to get out and stretch and exercise and get some fresh air and oxygen, which, as you know, if you're a regular listener, I am passionate about at the best of times, particularly now, because I think it is so key for boosting our immune system, and we need strong immune systems at the moment. We do any time, so it doesn't matter whether you're listening to this a year or two down the line. Fresh air, vitamin D, exercise are all so good for our mental health and our immune system, and our productivity and our sleep. I'm also keen to do it to help my sleep. But today is March the 23rd, and I drove past, on the way back, I drove past the field and saw my first lambs of the year. They must only have been about a day old. They were tiny, right by the road, sat with their mums, a field of mummy sheep and their babies. And it was so sweet. I pulled up, took some photos and posted them on social media. If you follow me anyway, you may see them. But I just thought, what a gorgeous morning. The sun is shining. The lambs are out, it's warm, I've had a lovely run with my little mate Millie, all is good. And what I'm trying to say is that is what we need to do. We need to look for any good things and celebrate them. We need to appreciate them. And I have mentioned this before, that if you have a book that you dedicate to your own personal development, some people call it a journal, some people call it a diary, whatever you want to call it, but I do recommend that you have one, a notebook of some sort where your jottings and your thoughts and your ideas and things like that. It's a great idea to have one, and I think particularly through this time where we're locked in or socially isolated, we're probably more so than ever in our own heads with our own thoughts. And so if we put them out on paper, that's a good thing, especially well, it's a good thing anyway. If they're positive thoughts, such as appreciating the lambs, the countryside, the fact that Mother Nature knows what to do, that life goes on, that if we look around us, nature just carries on no matter what us humans do to the planet or to ourselves. Mother Nature carries on and just gets it right. And I'm going to put that down for something that I'm grateful for. Now, I know this is a bit of a cliche and you hear it in the media, you know, having an attitude of gratitude, but it is so, so true. And if we can, particularly during this time, have an attitude of gratitude and be writing it down or putting it on your phone notes or putting it on your PC or in a little beautiful dedicated notebook, then you can build this up. You can it cheers you up, it lifts your spirits. It's something for you to look back on in the next few weeks as you have peaks and troughs in your mood and your well-being, which I'm certain that we probably all will. It gives you things to look back on, some good things. So for me, the lambs and the sheep will be definitely going in there. I've also recently, when going to the garden centre to pick up fruit and vegetables and some food, garden centres are a great place to go for food shopping. Who knew it? Rather than supermarkets, because they're airy and ventilated and often got all the doors open and they're cold and chilly, and I just think they're a healthier place to be than a hot supermarket that's packed at the moment. So I've been going to one out in the country where there aren't so many people and getting fresh fruit, and they even do milk and eggs and everything. So I've been going there in the garden centre, and I've now forgotten completely what I was going to say. I've remembered what I was going to say now. I had to actually stop. That proves that I do not edit this, that I just talk from the heart. So at the garden centre, I bought a big bag of wild bird seed, and thought, right, well, let's give back to nature. And I've put a little bowl outside our kitchen window full of birdseed, and it is just a hive of industry now. It is full of everything from pigeons, the pheasant gets up there, through to little sparrows, through to a robin, through to a pair of blue tits that we've got, some chaffinch. It is just so, so lovely to sit eating your breakfast cereal, watching all the birds busy, creating their homes, feeding. Well, they will be feeding their young soon, but fattening themselves up. It's just lovely to see. So that's another thing. And I think we've been so lucky with the weather through this first period of time where we're sort of quite restricted and locked in. So there is some good there already. The pulling together with mates, being in touch, caring for each other, looking after the community and the elderly around here, and being a point of contact should they need any shopping, etc., etc. So there's much good that could come of this. Another thing that I was thinking over the weekend was perhaps another good thing that will come of this when we look back is that Brexit pales into insignificance at the moment. It's barely been mentioned. That was something, if you're in the UK listening to this, for us in the UK, Brexit had been a real divider in our country over the last 2-3 years. It's been really negative. I recall the time in 2012 when we had the Olympics here, we hosted, and this country felt a great place to be. We felt so united, all a great feel-good factor. There was a great atmosphere here. It was a great time to be in the UK and to be British and be proud to be British. And then the referendum happened, and there was terrible divides in the country, in families, in friendships. It got really, for 2 or 3 years, very all-absorbing and very negative feeling. I felt negative as well, viewed from Europe to us, etc. It just all felt so disruptive and so unsettling and so insecure. Businesses didn't know what was going to happen. Nobody knew what was going to happen. And just at the time when it became it was coming through the other side, and our Prime Minister had just sorted it, the virus has happened. And Brexit is virtually insignificant now. It's barely been mentioned in the news, of course, because if you want to get over one problem, have a bigger problem. And that's the old something like that. There's an old saying about that, isn't there? And that's truly happened here. All of our worries and our concerns and our fears about the virus in the future and our friends, loved ones and selves and our, has completely taken over, quite rightly so, because it's far more important. But what I think will happen when this virus is behind us and the human race has survived it and we've pulled through and we've beat it and we've got a vaccine and we've got much more understanding and we've come out the other side with some really strong community spirits, some really strong friendships, some really strong relationships, an appreciation for so much, an appreciation for our jobs and our income and our families and our health. Gosh, we will appreciate our health, won't we? And hopefully, I really hope what will come of this is we will all appreciate our bodies and our health and our fitness and our nutrition. We will have a new appreciation for our physical health, and that cannot be a bad thing. But also what I think it will do, it's reuniting the UK. We're pulling together. It's reuniting human beings because we're all suffering. This isn't just something in the UK. This is across Europe. It's across the world. It's everywhere. We're all facing the same fight. And we will all come out the other side, hopefully come out the other side fitter, healthier, more knowledgeable, but more united. And I think maybe we needed something to do that. I don't want anybody to become ill or we lose anybody. I do not want that. But I really, really hope that a positive of this is that we are much kinder human race to each other, thereafter to the planet, to the wildlife and everything that we do, and we may come out of this a much, much nicer animal, or us humans. We may appreciate the world more, appreciate each other more, appreciate ourselves more. That cannot be a bad thing. I think we're uniting with Europe a lot more, with the European scientists as well as the worldwide community of scientists. We're following Europe, we're watching closely what Italy are doing, what Spain are doing, and beginning to watch now what Germany are doing, etc., etc. So for me anyway, it doesn't feel like we are so alien now, we're the outsiders anymore, which it began to feel with Brexit. The negative country, Great Britain, breaking away and it felt so toxic. It doesn't anymore. It feels like we're all pulling together, rising above all of our small differences to actually all try and combat this. So in terms of going forward for you and coping with the next few weeks and months, or if it's all behind us, just coping in life generally and a good thing to do, then I would say on a daily basis, just think about what you are grateful for in that day. What has been good and positive in that day? What was a nice little surprise? What was a thing you weren't expecting, or a bit of contact you weren't expecting, or a meeting that went particularly well? Or you've learnt some technology, or you've heard from somebody in ages that you haven't heard from and it's been lovely. Or you've shared some social media that's really made you laugh, or you've appreciated your pets. Just the fact that you've got a pet at home has been lovely, or the fact that the sun is shining at the moment and aren't we lucky, and the fields and the paths and the tracks are drying out, or the fact that you can use that weather to get out in the garden and maybe even sit out there, maybe at the moment it's still March, with a jacket on, but have your lunch out there and get some vitamin D and enjoy the outside. Whatever it is, just try and find as many things as you can per day that have pleased you, that have made you smile, that you appreciate, that you're grateful for. And think about the things that you can do to give and make others feel grateful or smile or feel upbeat. Can it be a nice message? Can it be a phone call out of the blue? Can you just be in touch with somebody that you haven't been in touch with for a long, long time? And bring joy to somebody else's. Giving to other people refills our tank too. So it's a two-way street. So if you're feeling down at the moment because you're socially isolated, pick up the phone and contact somebody, talk to somebody. Don't just send them a one-line message. Actually make proper connection. Use Zoom them, or Skype them, or FaceTime them, so you can see their face, so you can laugh together, so they feel they've got somebody there that's caring for them, and you do too. It refills and refuels you by doing that too. So there are many things that we can do, but more than anything, the key takeaway from today's podcast is stay in touch with your feelings, see them as a sign as of the weather of what to wear that day, i.e. what are you feeling that day, and what do you need to do to help yourself or some others in order to help yourself as well and them. But overriding that, to maintain really good mental health and positivity and upbeat, is perhaps to write down every day a list of things that have been good, a list of things that have been positive. What are you grateful for? Keep that attitude of gratitude going, or that journal going, especially last thing at night, because if that's what you're doing last thing at night, rather than reading any negative stuff on social media or watching the latest news, if you instead are working on all the good things that happened to you today and writing those out, that puts you in a much calmer mindset, a much better frame of mind for a good night's sleep. It's definitely what I'm going to do from tonight onwards. I am not going to do what I've done the last few nights, and I hope to break this sleep pattern. I think many of us have got disturbed sleep at the moment. I'm hearing it a lot from people. So try that. You've got nothing to lose and potentially everything to gain. So have a good day, spot all the good, and have a really good night's sleep. Then we wake up feeling better, refreshed, more positive, and we can be on an upward spiral, and then look tomorrow for all the good and write them down tomorrow night for a good night's sleep, and so on and so on. And if this helps you, then share it with others, or share this podcast with others, because I'm making it my mission to keep you all going, to keep it upbeat. Check out the website www.milestone-coaching.co.uk, where you can click on to my Facebook link and follow my Facebook, and on there you can click on the confidence group, my closed confidence group, and become a member of that. And there we can actually interact, and you can put comments in, and you can put your tips in. I mean, it would be lovely if you could share what's keeping you upbeat, but I only want it to be positive. I do not want there to be scary stats on there, or facts on there, or frightening things. I don't want that. We get that elsewhere. This one I want to be really upbeat, where we laugh and we encourage. And if you've got any funny things or useful things or ways that you've found or creative things that you've discovered, then please feel free to post them on the confidence group, or on email me or whatever, and I can use them on the podcast, because we need to share all these ideas. So and of course, it only goes to say that if you would like a one-to-one coaching session, then I am business as usual via the technologies, virtual technologies of Zoom or FaceTime or the telephone or whatever. And I'm more than happy to give you a tailored one-to-one coaching session. It can be just one if you want just one, or it can be a few if you want to go deeper and have ongoing support. And I do keep my costs low for one-to-one private coaching for private individuals. If you're corporate, it's very different. But I keep them low to really the cost of a hairdo, if you're female, so that it is not exclusive to only people that can really afford it. Not at all. It's more than achievable financially, especially as we can't go and have our hair done at the moment, or our nails done, or any other thing done. But we can work on our mindset, and in fact, actually, it's key that we work on our mindset at the moment, because that's what we're alone with a lot at the moment. If it's a good, healthy, encouraged, strong mindset, then that will get us through better. And working on resilience and coping strategies, and your stress and your anxieties and things like that, all of those things, and career and business and things are coachable. So other than that, if I don't hear from you, I look forward to talking to you on next week's episode of Life Coaching on the Move. And take care, stay well, stay positive, and stay upbeat. And I'll speak to you next week.